For creatures with such short lifespans, you Terrans are always so eager to die.
But in some ways he is right. Human life is so fleeting, so fragile, so insignificant. But despite this, we still find reasons and means to make it even shorter and bleaker. But can you blame the Terrans? The incentive to war and combat is known to be inherent in almost any organism, and the Protoss are no exception. They are the ones who have fought for superiority for generations, for centuries to come. First, the superiority of their race, then the superiority among their own kind. But still, the arrogant attitude toward the lower races is conditioned by the nature of the Protoss, their evolution, in which the xel'naga sought to achieve purity of form. And of course, from the point of view of physiology, the Protoss left far behind all other species. As you will understand, my friends, today we will talk about the physiology of the Protoss, consider the structure of their bodies, how they feed, how they survive, and how they differ from the so-called lesser races. They are humanoid creatures. The adult Protoss is about 2 to 3 meters tall and varies by sex and tribe. Males tend to be larger than females. So it's not surprising that most Terrans with their 180–190 centimeters are very small in the eyes of the Protoss. Speaking of eyes, the Protoss have them shining. The eyes glow one of the following colors: blue, yellow, purple, red, orange or green. The last two shades are more common among the Dark Templar. In StarCraft II Legacy of the Void, the color of the Protoss eyes depended on their faction. So the Kalai, as Otanis, Salendis, Karax, Rohana, have glow blue eyes. The nerazim, such as Zeratul, Warzun, have predominantly green, and red is present among the Tal'Darim, Alarak, Malash. The eyes of the Kalai controlled by Amon were also red. When the Protoss are overwhelmed with emotion, streams of energy can flow out of their eyes. It's similar to the way the Terran's tears flow. Strong emotions such as grief or anger can also cause changes in the color of the skin, which is covered with red spots. The skin of Air Protoss most often varies in light colors, light gray or light blue. There are also shades of beige or greenish. Generally, the color of the skin depends on the tribe. The Dark Templar usually have darker skin, purple shades. While initially smooth, Protoss skin can begin to crack with age, resulting in a reptile-like appearance. In addition, the Dark Templar, in principle, have, unlike the Protoss of Air, rougher and cracked skin, often covered with growths. When considering gender differences, females have smoother skin than males. The Protoss have a broad chest and shoulders, as well as a narrow waist with protruding pelvic bones. The tibia is short and the foot is long and narrow, and well designed to support the weight of an adult Protoss, which averages around 150 kilograms. The structure of the legs is digitigrade, reminiscent of some mammals familiar to us, such as dogs, cheetahs, tigers, etc. When moving, the Protoss are not supported on the feet, but on two big toes. In nature, such creatures usually move faster and quieter than other mammals. The structure of the arms is close to that of a human, but the hand consists of 4 well-developed fingers, both outer ones being opposable, which allows them to grasp objects much better. There's 2 thumbs. although there are protoss who have only one thumb. According to Dominion geneticists, this is a random hereditary trait among the protoss. The fingers end in long, sharp claws, allowing protoss to be deadly even when caught unarmed. From a human perspective, their limbs are disproportionately thin, but the physical strength and agility of the protoss are legendary. The xel'naga believed that the protoss had a purity of form, as they were able to adapt incredibly effectively to the harsh conditions of the wildlife. Their strength and speed surpassed all other races known to the xel'naga. Protoss muscle tissue is characterized by exceptional resilience and endurance. Cameron Dayton's short story called Symmetry describes a time when a war veteran, a zealot named Pterodel, was forced by circumstances to run non-stop for day and night, planting beacons on the surface of Salak, a moon of ire teeming with the zerg. The protoss have 3 separate hearts that work in unison. They are located so close to each other that an untrained eye can perceive them as a single organ. Even the protoss themselves sometimes call it the heart, that is in the singular. The blood of the protoss is blue or purple, according to other sources, such as Field Manual included with the Legacy of the Void Collector's edition. It is indicated that their blood has a dark purple shade, almost black. The elongated heads of the protoss closer to the back of the head and in a bony crest. Under it, from the base of the head, grow long nerve fibers, psi receptors, about 1.5 meters in length in an adult. These outgrowths are an important feature of the protoss race. They act as a kind of antenna, allowing the protoss to communicate telepathically with their own kind and maintain contact with them over long distance. And it is also through them the communication with the Kala takes place. As we remember from the game, cutting themselves off from the Kala was too much of a blow to the protoss.
Your nerve cords chain you to his will. They must be removed.
But do not forget that this process, in addition to the most powerful mental shock, is also accompanied by severe physical pain. Nerve cords are the most sensitive part of the protoss organism, the concentration of their neural network. Cutting off such an organ, according to the pain threshold, is comparable to cutting a human spinal cord. Of course, in the case of the latter, the result will most likely be fatal. But the protoss, as we know, are more resilient creatures, therefore can endure. If compared to animals, it will look like the amputation of the tail, which in turn is a physiological continuation of the spine. On the chin of some protoss you can see the bone growth. Apparently for the protoss this part of the body is prized, because it is often observed that they decorate it with some precious objects. There are some conjectures, however unconfirmed, that the protoss evolved from bird-like organisms, such as Archaeopteryx. And this growth is nothing more than an atrophied beak. It is also possible that it forms with age. Protoss have no externally pronounced ears, mouth or nose. They don't eat organic food. Instead, protoss absorb starlight. They are also able to exist from the energy of the moonlight, that is reflected starlight, and if necessary can do without light at all for a long time. They need little water, and all necessary amount of it is absorbed through the skin. The Dark Templar have altered their physiology and used special techniques to survive on the planet Shakuras, where there is almost no light. This type of nutrition is similar to the process of photosynthesis in plants, except that protoss do not have chlorophyll, but have a much wider absorption spectrum of electromagnetic waves. There is also a theory that this type of nutrition was inherited from plants, maybe improved by the xel'naga proto-genetic manipulations. In the past, the PROTOSS were skilled hunters, but they hunted for sport and also used the blood and hides of animals for secondary purposes rather than food. As for their sense of smell and hearing, their skin also performs this function. It receives sound vibrations and perceives smells, especially the PROTOSS sense of smell is very acute. Thanks to it, they perfectly recognize other PROTOSS and can navigate perfectly at night. Of the human senses, PROTOSS lack only taste. In general, PROTOSS skin is the greatest achievement of the evolutionary process, and it's quite complex in its cellular structure. Removal of waste products occurs at the molecular level, passing directly through the skin. So in some cinematics and arts we could see sweat on the face of the same Otanis. As we know, in humans some metabolic products are also excreted through the skin pores. But the main organs in this part are the intestine and the urogenital system. As for the PROTOSS, they don't have a digestive system as such, as it is unnecessary. The respiratory system in our usual understanding is also absent. The necessary elements for oxidative reactions PROTOSS also get through the skin. But if we dig a little deeper, taking into account a process similar to photosynthesis, perhaps PROTOSS use carbon dioxide to form stable carbon compounds, the same glucose, releasing oxygen. And later this same oxygen is used for oxidative reactions, releasing CO2. And this cycle repeats. That is, the nutrition and breathing system are very interconnected. This could explain why the PROTOSS can live in an oxygen-free environment for quite a long period of time, as well as in an environment with a lack of carbon dioxide. Moreover, we should not forget that the PROTOSS were improved by the xel'naga protogenetic experiments. Who knows what other elements unknown to science were added by Amon to the structure of the PROTOSS. The structure of the brain, like the entire nervous system, is similar to that of humans, but more developed. PROTOSS sleep and can dream in much the same way as humans. They can also communicate telepathically with living beings, including each other, humans and intelligent zerg. PROTOSS live for quite a long period of time. For example, Hierarch Otanis is a young PROTOSS, and at the time of the Brood War events lived 262 Earth years, and Praetor Phoenix was 398 years old at the time of his death. The longest-lived character that appeared in the game was Rashagal, the matriarch of the Dark Templar, who lived 1045 years and was personally acquainted with Adun. With age, PROTOSS do not lose physical strength and speed, and external signs of aging are less clear than in humans. The PROTOSS are not a prolific race, and to correct this, the xel'naga even created a special artifact, the Cassia crystal. As a result, their number on Aiur reached billions. Exact figures are unknown. Before the fall of Aiur, the number of PROTOSS had steadily decreased due to constant wars. Their numbers were further reduced during the conflicts of the First and Second Great Wars. Like humans, the PROTOSS are a two-genders race, with female and male individuals. However, information about their reproductive system is not known. As in the case of terrans and zerg, the genetic material of PROTOSS consists of DNA with helix strands. There is evidence that the PROTOSS have not yet revealed their full genetic potential. Some PROTOSS, such as Photum, Harum, Varak, experimented with genetic modification to improve all physical and mental indicators, but they were discontinued after the destruction of the PROTOSS Advanced Experimental Facility. PROTOSS DNA is antithetical to zerg DNA, and therefore cannot be combined by infestation under normal circumstances. That's why the zerg virus doesn't work on the PROTOSS, unlike the same terrans. However, using artificial genetic engineering techniques, it was possible to create hybrids. Also, as shown in the game, PROTOSS can still be as host for zerg parasites. On On the battlefield, the PROTOSS are great warriors, able to fight with incredible strength and valor. But despite their incredible abilities, they can still be mortally wounded in battle. When a PROTOSS nears death, his enemies usually see a flash of bright light, in which the warrior seemingly disappears. Many primitive races, having first seen this, usually fall into a state of supernatural horror, but it is the consequence of technology, not supernatural forces. PROTOSS armor is equipped with a teleportation device that automatically monitors the wearer's health, and when seriously injured, automatically moves him to a safe location. This of course depends on how well the mechanism is functioning, as there is a risk of being damaged during combat, and in such cases the teleportation may not work. Those PROTOSS who are badly wounded but willing to continue fighting are placed within the shell of a dragoon or immortal, in which they can continue to serve their brethren on the battlefield. Each PROTOSS chooses his own fate. He can continue to fight or join with their ancestors in the sacred Kala, where after death the consciousness of the PROTOSS is transferred. PROTOSS whose nerve cords have been damaged, such as the nerazim, attach clamps to the remnants in order to prevent energy bleed. Terran understanding of PROTOSS physiology is low. However, their physiology is similar enough that the PROTOSS are affected by substances and drugs like Sundrop, and Terran medics can treat the PROTOSS. The psionic abilities of the PROTOSS extend far beyond those of Terran ghosts. PROTOSS have been described as devastatingly intelligent, but their thought process works completely differently from that of humans. All PROTOSS have an innate ability to telepathy. PROTOSS must learn to filter the thoughts they read, and filter or block their own thoughts, without allowing other PROTOSS to read them. The ability to block thought was limited by the Kala, as according to this philosophy the PROTOSS should not hide from each other. During the Eon of Strife, the PROTOSS regularly used their mental powers to harm their brethren and ambush them. Using their Psi abilities, PROTOSS can surround themselves with shields, charge tools, weapons, and manipulate, distort or melt matter. But to use most of their abilities, PROTOSS require technological devices, such as psionic enhancers, although some trained Templars can do without them. PROTOSS can sometimes access memories and experiences of their fallen brethren that remain in the Kala, but only preservers have full access to this knowledge. They have been learning this secret art for centuries and are able to feel subtly the slightest disturbances and fluctuations in their secret mental union. Young PROTOSS warriors can learn from the spirits of fallen warriors at the Templar archives. PROTOSS can communicate telepathically with each other. There are two types of communication. At the first, the contact takes place in the style of ordinary conversation, which transmits little or no emotional content. In the second, they use their nerve cords to additionally feel each other's emotions. And this is a key feature of their psionic gestalt, the Kala. During the Eon of Strife, PROTOSS lost this ability, but it was restored by the mystic Kas. The PROTOSS who follow the Kala use both methods of communication. The Dark Templar have no connection to the Kala, so they only use the conversational method. The PROTOSS can create a special mental bond deep within the Kala, where no one can lie. When performing this kind of mind meld, the PROTOSS combine psionic powers using their hands, pressing their palms together. At the same time, both palms softly glow. This is probably how the executor Adun and Rashagal spoke in this way, although the latter is not related to the color. Protoss speak a language called Kalani, which uses telepathic connections. The conversation in Kalani remains open only to those involved. While communicating, the Protoss can hurt each other by sending psi attacks. Terrans perceive the Protoss conversation as a set of incomprehensible sounds. At the same time, Protoss are able to translate thoughts into images so that other races can understand them. There is a limit to how far the Protoss can communicate through telepathy. Psychic boosters are used for broadcast on ships, and Psi-link spires are used for interstellar distance communication. Protoss are able to use their telepathic abilities to interact directly with Terran video communication systems. During the Eon of Strife, the Protoss were not capable of non-psionic communication. Kas created the principles of writing and reading necessary to translate and preserve information from some xel'naga relics. In addition to telepathy, Protoss possess a degree of body language used in conveying feelings, intent, etc. For instance, a bop of the head and movement of a Protoss nerve cords is a sign of contempt. Bowing of the head, shaking or mottling of the skin is a sign of emotional distress. Well, dear viewers, that's all. I've told almost all the facts currently known about the physiological structure of the Protoss, with the possible exception of the reproductive system. But as I said earlier, there have been no official comments from Blizzard Entertainment on this matter, despite all the pleas of fans. But since the topic is very relevant, I will try to cover it in the next video, at least based on those versions and theories that exist at the moment, outlining, of course, my point of view on this subject. Thank you for your attention, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell so you don't miss anything, and may Adun protect you, young Templars. Good luck!